Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of Tea and Coffee with Paula and Jay, who is doing some technical stuff in the background.
Sorry, yeah, we're trying to get a pattern going here in order to do setup for X because it doesn't go on our timeline unless we put it there. But yay! Good morning. How are you doing? Good morning, Monday.
All right. Yeah, that day again. Yeah, morning, everyone. Hope you had a pleasant weekend. Ours was pretty good. We got caught up on a little bit of rest. And then, yeah, we had some chilly temps. We woke up to minus 22 today, but we got the minus teens today, and it's only going to be warming up until Friday. So it's going to be really great. Looking forward to it. We have a little bit of snow today too. So we'll see what the weatherman brings us.
Yeah, we're getting into spring pretty quickly here, and I'm enjoying that. And also enjoying your little intro there and your but. Did you go to drama class with JJ?
No, but he does have drama today. We're dropping the kids off for their drama, for acting lessons. That's another fun thing we do. I don't know where that's from, whether I think it's from some British show called Extras, I think, with what's the guy who played Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek Next Generation?
Sir something.
Yeah, but anyway.
Come on, get it.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Like 3 a.m, he'll come to me. But yeah, anyway, he goes like, acting!
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Sir
Lancelot.
That's me.
Mix-a-lot.
Sir, come on, everybody.
You're cheating. I'm Googling.
Of course, we're not going to leave everybody hanging. They're all yelling at us. It's Sir so-and-so.
He played in the X-Men.
Yeah, we all know who it is.
Yeah. We all know who it is. Shout out in the chat, please.
Picard.
What's his name?
Done. Picard, fictional character. There's his picture. Show me his name.
What's it?
His picture. Yes, we all knew that.
Oh my god, you're terrible. This is the longest.
Oh my god, it's just talking about the character. Oh my gosh. Come on,
terrible. People. I'm so distracted. Thank you. I was so distracted by
right
you.
Out of my noggin right there. Is he even a sir? Patrick Stewart. No, maybe not.
He was a good chance. Probably got an OBE or something like that. Order of the British Empire, for those who don't know what an OBE is.
Ooh, look at me. I'm Paula. OBE.
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 But not obese.
No, he's a skinny fella. Thank you, Claire Rabatel 2390, Patrick Stewart.
I just call him Pat. Good old Pat.
Good old Patty. He's all right.
Yeah, there we go. So we're not AI. We're very much live. And yeah, Patrick Stewart.
And this is clearly how we're going to be starting our week. I'm not leaving you to Google. It'll take half an hour.
Wow. Folks.
The
apologize for that.
The abuse.
Sir Patrick Stewart. Maybe. Getting there.
Oh my god.
It's not my fault.
It is your fault.
No.
It is your fault. Oh my goodness. So start as you mean to go on, folks. This is maybe how the rest of the show is going to go. Although very excited, we do have Leighton Grey joining us today as our guest come 7:30. So that should be, as usual, a really good episode when he's around.
Yes, Patrick Stewart was knighted by the Queen Elizabeth at Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
Sure. All right.
That's not surprising.
No fake news. No fake news here. You got Jason and Trump all in one. What do you think?
Oh my, cracking. Super smashing great for those who
Our hockey team show Canada how to play.
Oh well. And womp. And yes, they got a stuffy though. That would be actually. Do they give it to the men or is it just the women? There you go. You lost. Here's a stuffy.
For the rest of Canada, isn't that little plush boy?
Yeah, some sort of little.
We don't use stuffy. Stuffy is your nose in the middle of winter.
Oh well, that's what the kids use. Well, JJ says, "Oh, mom, that's a stuffy." To me,
he learned that from you.
No, that's not an English term.
Okay, folks.
Let's Google that.
Do you call it a stuffy, or do you call it stuffed animal or stuffed bear?
Yeah, no, it's not an English term. Stuffy. I only heard that when I came to Canada with the boys, and they heard that from like daycare and stuff.
Friends, maybe. All right, thumbs up if it's a stuffy, and heart if it's a stuffed animal, or stuffed toy, or plush toy.
Yeah.
Is it a wife beater or is it a vest?
Yes, it's a vest. Going a dark path. That wife beater. Someone's walking. What wife beater? What are they talking about there?
So you can wear wife beater and a buddy hug in Saskatchewan then.
Oh my goodness! Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Yes.
I feel like I'm in the wrong spot. Out of place. There we go. Move over a bit. All right. So.
And there we go. So Enter from Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon movie where they play old villain has-beens. Which one was that? I love those old classic Walter Matthau, John Lemmon, Jack Lemmon movies. They're so good. The Odd Couple. And then was a Grumpy Old Men they kind of did at the end of their career. Grumpy Old Men 1 and 2. That was very cool.
You like those?
Yeah, I love
it. Good, I'm going to be one.
Yes. I'm going to be I'm already a grumpy old lady right now.
You are.
Well, you are not lying.
I'm also hairy.
You are. You furry face. Furry face.
Smile. I like your smile.
I like your smile.
Remember when I had the beard?
Ugh, yeah.
Oh. Go ahead. Show your emotion. Drama.
No, I would look. I'm not a fan of ungroomed, cavemen.
What?
I'm not.
Ungroomed?
Complete. Yeah. It was long. Even your hair, like you looked rough, man. You looked rough. I still love you, but yeah, you looked rough. The wet comb in the morning would not have saved you. Love you.
She's like this all the time, folks. Yes, but I still love you. Well, I still love you. When you creak, when you stand and walk and sit down.
Dude, you do the same thing.
I was wondering how many people have to do the rock to get up in the morning or grab something.
Yeah.
Like we got to install something into the bathroom. Just make it easier to stand up.
Yeah, the joys of getting old, my friend. Okay, so come on. Canada is multicultural. Stuffy. The term is Russian.
Ooh.
Spasiba, brother-ty.
You give it away. Now everybody's going to say you're a Russian spy.
Oh, my goodness. Sleeper cell. Making Canadian movies.
She does sleep a lot. Well, maybe that is it.
What? Who?
Would you be sleeping right now if you could?
Yes. Well, yeah. I would if I could, but I can't.
So you won't. Finish that rhyme. All right, folks. If you're not annoyed yet, you're going to be. It's going to be one of those shows. A reminder that we're not planning a show tomorrow. Last minute, we might do it, but I'm waiting for confirmation on an appointment, and we'll see if I can get it or not. But I'll keep you posted. But right now, we're not booking somebody.
Yeah. So day off for Team Levine, even though it's late start it's always a productive day for us. It's never a day off. There's always something going on.
You want to show the little gift that someone made for us?
You go ahead. You're the one who's going to be strong enough to lift it up and move it around.
Really? You're not strong enough to lift a little box?
Weak and defenseless.
Oh, so strong.
Wait. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
To the top.
The lovely viewer.
Well, you can say his name, Phil.
Phil.
Yeah. So, yeah, we had this. Well, we still have him. Good, Phil. You're still around. We saw you yesterday. Him and his wife went to one of our events, and because we are only donation based when it comes to our events, we're not sponsored or funded by the government in any way, shape, or form. So we do ask for donations, and thankfully, generosity of Albertans keep these going.
Oh, these guys rock.
Yeah, and thought, hey, maybe you guys would appreciate something like that, and we certainly do. Thank you very much, Phil. And I'm looking forward to picking up our hats today too. We get some Levine hats today.
Cool.
Levine show hats.
Yep, no, that'll be nice. And for those interested, yes, we are selling them online. Just need to work out what the postage is going to be.
Selling them online.
No, meaning like shipping them, because we have someone in Ontario who'd like a hat.
Maybe one or two, but no, we don't have enough inventory for that. They're for the events. So if you really want one, fly to Alberta. It's one of our events, and you can get that. You can pay the shipping.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll work that out, but because I know, Crystal, you'd like one, so we'll work something out.
We'll give her one. Well, yeah, we'll get one to her for sure.
Yeah.
If you're one of our supporters, we'll certainly do what we can, because shipping is just crazy.
Yeah, it's
to ship anything. It costs more than the item itself.
Yeah.
But our supporters, we'll get you something. So become a supporter. It's one way to get a hat if you want one.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll figure this out.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, yeah, looking forward to that. We'll pick that up later today. We've got to dodge the snow. Snow is coming at some point during the middle of the day. we've got to be, but it's not for long.
Also, we'll take the Acadia then.
Yeah, we should.
Just to make sure. Okay. We'll do that. All right. So, James, we'll be seeing you at in Rimby, noon lunch. That's something like.
Cool.
Okay, so let's get into it. We're already 11 minutes in, and there's definitely some news. All righty. Okay, so on Friday, we had the BC Prosperity Project. Dominic was on. It was very good to talk to him because we got into a lot of things, not just BC related, but independence related. Danielle Smith. By the way, most of this episode with Leighton Grey is going to be his opinion on Danielle Smith's announcement for the referendum and the questions, and we'll certainly get into that. And a good chunk of this week will be the same thing.
Yeah, we are. Heads up, we are going to be Alberta heavy this week.
Yeah, so Mitch Sylvester and Rachel Parker on Wednesday.
Cool.
And then we got Derek Smith from Fringe.
Unacceptable Fringe.
Thanks a lot.
You're
It's just a weird name for me. Unacceptable Fringe. Alberta Proud Dad and another journalist, Igor or something. So we'll have a full house on Thursday.
Cool.
And then Friday we got the Bruce Party show again, as he's once again ringing the bells that people don't like to hear. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Might be a little bit too concerned. But I don't think he's wrong because the House is going to do everything they can to stop this.
Yes.
Even if we vote yes, and it goes all the way there.
Yes.
So we'll have Bruce
Correct.
Party on Friday, the Cold Water Friday. I guess I'm ready for that one. You laugh, but it's what it is. All right. So thank you a lot to get to Dominic for coming on, and we'll have more people like that on because we want to cover BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and any other place that's looking at self-determination. Maybe we can help each other, learn from each other, encourage each other. And yeah, we're doing that. So Keith Wilson here is highlighting the Premier just confirmed October 19th independence vote will be on the question if Stay Free Alberta gets signatures. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be with over 7,500 and growing canvassers collecting signatures. You really only need a few dozen from each of them now. Through the next couple months to get to that number. And I think we're probably over that number now.
Yeah.
Did learn from Elections Alberta that it's not a requirement on their end for the number not to be released. There is no restriction at all. So the numbers could be released if State for Alberta wanted to. But at this stage are not releasing those numbers. It could be logistical, it could be strategical, it could be both on why that isn't happening. A lot of people wouldn't show up if they
think it's already done. Oh, there's no need for me to.
But the goal is to get to 1 million. So I wonder if it would encourage some people to show up if they saw the thing ticking up.
Yeah.
In either case, I learned over the weekend that it's not an Alberta elections requirement, but we'll correct the record on that one. But yes, the Vote Yes campaign will be starting for the October 19th referendum question. So you can absolutely expect that after the numbers come in. For the 6 months or so leading up to October 19th, you're going to hear a lot of vote yes everywhere. There's going to be vote yes on Premier's questions, even though we'll get into it today. We don't need to be doing this, and it's all very moot anyways. But also vote yes on that campaign is going to be started. There's also going to be the vote no's are going to be starting too. And there's going to be some nasty, I'm sure, information, misinformation, embellishments, and those kind of things. We've already seen that from the Globe and Mail today. If we can get,
lots of pants on fire.
Yep, and then Critical Compass. So this is Mike from Critical Compass providing this video here. Reddit is officially triggered now for the people who don't know what Reddit is. It's a website that's predominantly the left now. It's where they go to whine and complain and gather and communicate because there's very little restrictions there for them. There's a lot of restrictions if you're on the right in any way, shape, or form, but not for them. This is where they're posting their frustration. And they're starting to post things like you should be slashing the tires of vehicles with flags and things like that. It's getting silly. I guess they don't understand how tech works. They can be found evidence against them, that kind of stuff. So check out this video, Critical Compass. And my post here is, I'm not going to lie, this is getting funny. Not one of them is even trying to make an argument that Alberta is better off in Canada. Not even trying. You can't even win gold medals in hockey anymore. So what's the point? Did I trigger anybody out there? Boy, did people get mad at me for that one. Thomas Lusakic, Tiny Tim, My post here is, this is hands down the most racist comment Tiny Tim has ever posted. And it's more than just one. Like, if you read the whole thing, it's not just this line, but there's more in here. It's really gross. His quote is, "They're the ones serving you coffee at Timmy's," when referring to immigrants. "It rings as racist as Kelly Osbourne, who's going to clean your toilets," comment.
Good Donald Trump.
Yeah. So he himself, and here it is, here's his post. "Immigrants are not Alberta's problem. They're here legally. They're the ones serving you coffee at Timmy's." Oh,
I know.
Oh, and I won't get into the rest because, he's even invoking some really horrible things from World War II and try and compare Danielle Smith to it, which a lot of people came down hard on him and Rachel Notley for that, doing the same thing. But this is gross. He is supposed to be a conservative. It's not how conservatives
He's not
talk.
a conservative.
Not at all. No, he is very much a liberal. He's you can't even say a conservative in name only. He is literally a liberal. He works with Carney and he talks like a lefty, walks like a lefty, quacks like a lefty. Here's a quack right here.
Yeah.
You don't talk like that. That's gross. But here he is doing it. So Tiny Tim is really himself in a foot. He's probably got all toes knocked off by now. Find a Stay Free Alberta signing location near you.
Yeah.
Link is in the post. If you go to the Stay Free Alberta post, there's a Google interactive map. Hopefully that's going to be updated frequently. See where the signing locations are. But look at that.
Yeah, stayfreealberta.com.
Especially in the cities, it's just blanketed all over the place. So, and this one also had Arizona. You'll see that shortly here too.
Yeah, that was good.
But you did not see stuff like this for Forever Canada, and they got 400. Well, supposedly,
bless you.
450,000 signatures. Oh my gosh, I got stuffy. At the stuffy, 450,000 signatures. 50,000 of them were disqualified after review. So at least 400,000 signatures, and they had no campaign like this. Nothing like that. Now, granted, Stay Free Alberta is not threatening and lying to the elderly and going around trying to scare people. So they're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way with the truth and evidence. But I think they're there. They're going to get there.
Yep.
And I say there, that's Mitch's millions. I think where you get to tissue. You guys call it tissue or Kleenex? What do you guys call
it? So yeah, that's this little segue into how we use sometimes the name brands for things. So in England, a pen, a typical like writing pen, you'd call a biro because
what?
Biro, because biro is a brand, and instead of tape, you'd say sellotape because that's the brand that's typically.
Here, I'm here to sell you a tape.
Yeah, sellotape and biro. But yeah, you don't use biro. I learned that very quickly when I
drive a Vauxhall.
We're like, well, Vauxhalls.
I know. What do you call cars?
You don't have Vauxhalls here. Vauxhalls, Renaults, don't have them here.
I'm sure some people have imported one or two, but yeah.
It's due to the rules regarding the exhaust and stuff. That's why Renault's not here. I know that.
There's also a lot of diesel.
Yeah.
They do a lot of diesel in their vehicle.
Yeah.
All right, back on track here. So John Cleese, who I'm not normally a fan of some of his politics, he's an anti-Trumper and that kind of stuff, and he comes harsh. But here he's not wrong. He's always talking about the BC Human Rights Tribunal, and he's referring to the $750,000 fine that's been levied against Barry Neufeld. And John Cleese says, "What a pity. I'm arranging a theatrical tour of Canada this fall, and now I won't be able to risk doing any shows in British Columbia. I was really looking forward to coming." John Cleese. My post here is "Go woke, no joke. Even comedians are avoiding BC for fear that they too will be judged and fined by the BC Human Rights Tribunal. Sad day for culture when the comic is concerned." So I'm sure he just helped us ticket sales everywhere else, because what in the world are you going to say that would get you in trouble in BC? I think people are going to check it out. But yeah, when comics are concerned about being fined when they travel and work, something's really wrong, like really wrong. Yeah. And of course, we'll get into the BC thing. We did a little bit on Friday, but it's ridiculous. Well, it's ridiculous. And I think I covered it in a post as well last week. Because ideology is not a human right. So just because someone's feelings are being hurt, that doesn't mean you have to enforce speech.
Yeah,
And
facts don't care about your feelings.
yeah, so that was going to be a topic for a while. I'm sure there's appeal being worked on. Okay, so I can confirm this is true. So breaking, Mitch Sylvester, one of the biggest voices of the Alberta independent movement, received a death threat at his office today. So he runs a store, a sporting goods store, and somebody walked in there. There's video. I've seen the video. I'm waiting for permission to release it because the police are involved. I can confirm the RCMP are involved in this. All the rhetoric that sovereignists are traitors is what's fueling these dangerous and criminal actions from people. If you call somebody a traitor or a Nazi or a fascist enough, somebody's going to pop up to try and stop it, thinking that they're a savior of some sort. But this guy, I don't even call him a gentleman, walked into Mitch's store, put 2 bullets on the counter and said, "These are for Mitch," and walked out with a big smile on his face. So
big tough guy.
That's a big threat. So the RCMP are involved. I've seen the emails and communications, and I'm waiting for permission to go ahead and post the video. So that might come today. But yeah, if you know who this person is, when we get to that stage, go ahead and contact your RCMP.
Yeah,
we'll provide you the numbers. This kind of thing shouldn't be happening.
No, exactly.
And this is not like a lefty crazy looking person. This looks like some sort of somebody that could be considered normal and
typical
community member and probably holds a position. But walked right in there, put some bullets on the counter, and said, "These are for Mitch." Walked out with a big smile on his face.
Tough guy.
So Mia here is getting threatened again. Okay. Oh, there we go. So this Morgan Ogre.
Yeah. Olga. This is no. Yeah. Ogre.
Well, it's Ogre if you see. Yeah. Did a debate with Mia. This is a trans identifying crazy nut ball. Z at the lulls. It's threatening her because Barry Newfield got fined and basically saying, "Mia, you're next." So Mia's threatening me all you like. I still won't pretend to believe in gender identities. My post here is, when they cannot debate you, they threaten you. We have a name for when a grown man openly threatens a woman for her thoughts: intimidation. Your ideas can't stand on their own, and your only response is to bully, silence, or threaten someone into submission. You've already lost the argument. So Mia is expecting a human rights complaint, likely in Ontario. We may see if Ontario does what BC does, because I believe this person is also responsible for the BC stuff too. So they go around trying to silence anybody that speaks up. This dam is breaking, though. People are frustrated and annoyed.
Yeah.
I think the Newfeld thing is going to bring a lot of attention, not the way that this crazy group is expecting. And yes, I do hold that opinion that it is a mental illness, not an identity thing that we need to affirm. All right, so CTV Edmonton is highlighting here because they don't know how to oppose without opposing and affirming themselves. So because they're opposing Danielle Smith's referendum questions, especially the constitutional ones, they have an article here about how difficult, almost impossible it is to do constitutional changes because you need the 750 rule, you need cooperations from the provinces, Senate, and House of Commons all together, and how impossible that is, plus a referendum vote. So we saw this fail twice in Canada already. CTV Edmonton's highlighting that. While at the same time, maybe they didn't realize, because they're just getting out there with their opposition to Danielle Smith, they've affirmed Alberta independence. My comment here is cool. CTV Edmonton is now making compelling arguments for Alberta independence by reminding Albertans that constitutional amendments are all but impossible in Canada. And as a result, only an independent Alberta can break the constitutional chains in Ottawa's control. This is 100% correct. And so is CTV Edmonton on this one. They're highlighting how almost impossible this thing is to make any changes like elected Senate, judicial reviews, some of the other questions that Danielle Smith has put on the table for constitutional changes. And they're right. Now, here's a good reason for Alberta to do their own thing, because that is correct. Like, if Alberta wants any of these changes, so if you're looking to vote yes on all those constitutional questions from Danielle Smith on the referendum, you may as well also vote yes on independence, because that's the actual only path to get those done.
That's right. An independent nation of Alberta.
So CTV Edmonton, thank you for joining the bandwagon. because you're making great reasons, and these are factual and true. We've been saying these for a long time.
Mhm.
The only way to change the Constitution in Canada is to leave it. You're not going to do it through the amendment form.
Yes, and Michael in our locals chat, I think our vote should be separate. Yes, we would want
That's
that
coming
too.
up. Yes.
Yeah.
It's the same day, but separate ballots. So that's been confirmed now, as long as you get the number.
Mhm.
Melanie Bennett, you guys should see this poster. It's gross. So she's been on the show a couple times now. She's a good friend, refugee, she calls herself.
Yep.
There's a poster in a high school in Ontario that says racism is not fluid. And then it has these little bubbles here that says racism does not go back and forth, one day benefiting whites and another day benefiting people of color. Racism is always against a marginalized group. So basically saying you can't be racist against white people.
Yeah.
And I don't even like the wording benefiting. Like benefiting, just really gross on how they're framing this. But the truth is racism is colorblind. It's absolutely has nothing to do with your race on whether or not you can be a victim of racism. So benefiting, like it's such a weird term.
Yeah. And
anyway, so I remind everybody that globally, quote unquote, white people, I saw JJ's little line there, are not a majority. According to demographic research, people of European descent make up around 15% or less of the world's population, meaning whites are actually part of the global minority, not an inherently privileged majority. That's on that, of course. It's very easy to understand. You got Asia, you got Africa, you got Middle East, you've got India. All these places are not white descent. And then here in Canada, Statistics Canada itself projects that by 2041, immigrants and their Canadian-born children can make up more than half of the total population, which means the traditional white majority will no longer be the largest demographic group. So what happens in 2041? Because like they said, racism is only against a marginalized group. So does that mean at that point, you can't be racist against people of color?
But here's the thing. This is the level
you can be, but you can't be.
This is the level of racism and the ignorance the left and the woke have, because they're only thinking about the Western world, not realizing the rest of the globe where the majority of the population are.
And this has been celebrated. That hey, so at some point we're going to take over. So what happens my only point here is what happens in 2041 when the numbers shift. Does that mean according to that poster, the marginalized group is the only one that can do that?
Yeah.
So that will be shifted. So and globally it's already the case, but then in Canada it will be the case as well. So I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll take that poster down. You go Amber. So Amber Levine, a U.S. woman from Maine, is fighting for her daughter, who was secretly given a chest binder and a new name and pronouns at school, notification to her parents. So the laws that we have here in Alberta is something that she's fighting for in Maine and going to go through the House or the Senate. No, sorry, the Supreme Court on this one, just to ensure that parents have rights. So good luck for her.
Yeah.
This was posted by Gays Against Groomers, the U.S. side. So congratulations on that, because even that group says no, enough of this.
Yep.
You go Amber. So that may be Levine v. Let's see. It's going to be Levine v. Great Salts Bay. Could be the parental rights decision upheld in the U.S. and spelled the same way we do.
Yeah. Good luck to her.
Yeah.
And the other parents involved in this, because she's not the only parent.
Yeah.
So good for her.
Congratulations. And then we see our guest. We'll be right with you. October 19th, I wanted to see if it had anything else happen on that day. That was interesting. October 19th, 2026 will be a historic day in Alberta.
Yep.
Turns out, most important one is the first one here. October 19th, 1781, British General Lord Cornwallis formally surrendered to General George Washington at Yorktown, Virginia, effectively ending major combat in the American Revolution War. So the U.S. celebrates July 4th, 1776 as their Independence Day, but they actually won and completed
Battle of Yorktown.
There you go with your Hamilton reference. October 19th, 1781 is when they actually secured their independence. October 19th is a day that maybe will be very good for Albertans, and we'll see what happens. Also on October 19th, 1992, Canadians voted in the Charlottetown Accord, a proposed constitutional reform package. I included that one because it was voted down, showing how hard it is to get constitutional reform. So on October 19th, 1992, it also happened. October 19th, 1812, Napoleon Bonaparte began his disastrous retreat from Moscow after the failed invasion of Russia, a major turning point in the Napoleonic Wars. You just finished my words.
You have to finish your sentence,
You
finish
knew
your
where
word.
it was going. You said when I started slowing down, you're like, here we go. And then here, you can help me with that last name. Get yourself ready.
Nope.
October 19th, 1984, Polish priest Jerzy.
I'm not going to insult the Polish people.
Popiluzoko, associated with the Solidarity movement, was kidnapped by communist security officers. His murder became a symbol of resistance against authoritative rule in Poland. So Pastor Arthur Pawlowski is definitely very familiar with that one. So October 19th has some significance in history.
Yep.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into, let's see what the next one was. Yeah, we can say that for tomorrow, Wednesday. So let's go ahead and jump into our guest, because I'm really excited about this conversation. Not only I hope he can hear us. So if we can get a thumbs up, then we know he can hear us. Yep. Well, right on. No bugs today.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and bring him in, because this conversation is an important one. Good morning, Mr. Gray, my friend Leighton. How are you doing?
Morning.
Hello. How are you?
Very good. Very good. And how you been?
Great. Actually, I'm not, as you can tell, I'm not in my studio. I'm actually on vacation right now, but happy to join you today and talk about things that are going on in Alberta.
You're not in Mexico, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm near there, but I'm in the United States. I'm in Nevada, actually.
Oh, great. So you celebrated the hockey win.
Not exactly. I have a whole take on Team Canada if you want to hear it, but that's not
let's
really
start right there.
Yeah,
Let's go ahead and trigger some people. It's gonna be fun.
Well, I actually posted this out on my page yesterday, and I got a lot of reaction to it. I feel a bit badly for those athletes who were there. But you probably know, Jason, we've talked about this. I have a hockey background. I was a former pro hockey player, not in the NHL, but and I spent many years in the hockey world. My two sons are still playing. But for me, I no longer have any emotional attachment to the Canadian jersey. I can't cheer for a Canadian jersey that has a black maple leaf on it. I don't understand. I don't understand that jersey. But I know things about Hockey Canada that unfortunately most people don't realize. So just to put this in context, I think everybody in Canada knows that we're a winter nation, and we used to be one of the top medal-winning nations at the Winter Olympics. In fact, it made up for the fact that we don't do all that well in the Summer Olympics, with some few exceptions. We were 8th in medals this year. And there's a very clear connection between the amount of money that's going to support our athletes and how they do at these games. And this doesn't apply to these NHLers, obviously, but overall, what we have with Hockey Canada, what we have in Sport Canada, is a woke apparatchik that is an extension and a sort of tentacle of the Mark Carney, Justin Trudeau Liberal government. And it should not surprise anyone that at the same time that everything else is getting worse in Canada, so are our national sports teams, because we had a prime minister who spent $11 billion on gender conversion propaganda in the third world, rather than our national sports teams. And this is a travesty. But the fact is that I no longer have an emotional connection to those NHLers playing hockey. I'm one of the purists who doesn't think that NHL players should be at the Olympics. That I think that these men are wonderful athletes, but they have their place, and that's in the National Hockey League, which is a professional sports league. I would like to see other people have an opportunity to play there who are actual amateur athletes. But when I see Team Canada now, I can't separate that from Hockey Canada, who has as its head a woman who is who is a lesbian. That's her choice, but it seems an odd choice to head up Hockey Canada, whose top priority is to stamp out toxic masculinity in sport. Well, as a former hockey player, I can tell you it's pretty hard to separate out masculinity from the game of hockey. It's pretty much an elbows up sport, elbows up in the pure sense and not the Mark Carney sense. Even the women, if you watch them play, there's a lot of testosterone out there. That's probably the most adrenalized you'll ever see any woman in sport is out there playing hockey. So it's very difficult for me. I don't have the same feeling about Team Canada as I did a generation ago, when I was watching even Sidney Crosby in 2010, or, Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux in 1987. Or for those of you who are old enough, my older brother tells me that in 1972, they actually brought the kids out of class and put them all into the gymnasiums to watch Paul Henderson score the winning goal against Vladislav Tretiak back in 1972. That was a different Canada, and it's one that unfortunately is long gone. And so I can't separate out, unfortunately, because this government, the Liberal government, has so politicized every aspect of Canadian life. I can no longer separate out politics from sport. And then talking about the men's hockey tournament in particular, why isn't Russia there? This is supposed to be a best on best. Russia is, arguably one of the two greatest hockey playing nations. I guess we have to include the US in there now, the three greatest hockey playing nations ever. And they're not there. Well, explain to me why the NHL can promote its game by having everybody follow Alexander Ovechkin around for over a year while he chases Wayne Gretzky's record, but they're going to ban the Russians from every best on best competition. So there's so much politics in sport now that I can't separate them out. And so, I can't really feel all that badly about Canada not winning gold at the Olympics. As much as I feel for, some of those players, I don't want to take anything away from the contribution that they made and the effort. I applaud that. But as a Canadian, I don't have any emotional investment in how any, Canadian national team does anymore. And that's just my take. I'm comparing that to, what it was like not so long ago when we all sort of waved the flags and went rah, rah, rah. I don't know many people who have that kind of fervor for Team Canada anymore. And that's a real shame, but it's a sign of the times about, what's wrong with Canada. And it sort of segues and ties into what we're going to talk about today, doesn't it?
Well, here's the thing. Since 2010, Vancouver was the last time I really watched the Winter Olympics. In 2012 in London, that was it. Like, since then, the desire and the pull's not there anymore. We used to be season ticket holders for the Toronto Raptors when we lived out there during the Chris Bosh days. But we were fans of the NBA until COVID. They did that bubble down in Florida, and they all had the name like Justice and Equality,
the BLM stuff
all over the place. I'm like, we're done. Like, when they brought politics into the NBA, we were done. We haven't watched really since then at all. And that's probably why, because had they not done that, we probably would have continued to be fans and supporters of the Raptors.
Yeah.
But the Olympics don't mean the same to me than they did as a kid. I remember when it came to Calgary, and I was in Saskatchewan at the time, just this kid in school, and the torch came through town, came through Saskatoon, and we all left school and we stood on the side of the road and cheered it on because there was a unity there. There was a pride there. But that's long gone. At least in my world, it's long gone. Politics is everywhere. And I don't feel the same pull to be Canadian as I did when I was a kid. So I would say even Harper started to sour me on some of this. And I can't speak for Paula, but when it came to the Olympics, we barely knew it was on. If it wasn't for the touching of the rock, I may not have known about it really, because that was the only thing popping up on my feed now was how we're cheating and swearing and trying to put the focus on, well, you guys are cheating because you're using cameras to capture us cheating. Like, that argument was just so weird to see. But maybe speak for yourself on this one, Paula, about where's your Olympic flame? It blow out?
I think, no, for sure. I remember what's his name? Alex Bilodeau for the Canadian Winter Olympics with the, what is this? I can't remember the skiing down the hill with all the bumps. And we were supporting him because, that was Vancouver. But from that, it's the only sport I pay attention to now is the Euros and the World Cups for soccer. That always, I think,
say it correctly, it's football.
Football, I know. Well, being Canadian correct. But that's always got that would be a long time before my heart doesn't have a relate to that. I love it. But no, for the Olympics, religiously. As a kid, I used to watch the ice skating for the winters, and I used to love all the summer, the track and field, the gymnastics, all that type of thing. Loved it. But yes, as I've gotten older in recent years, because of the politics around it, yeah, it literally, had it not been for something that popped up on my feed right before the curling scandal, I had no idea the Olympics were on.
Yep.
I didn't, let alone, like, didn't even know what country it was in. There's only when I saw Milano, okay, it's in Italy, but had no idea. And it's sad because, yes, growing up, it was such a fun thing to be a part of. I would follow Nigeria or England, and then when I came to Canada, started paying attention to Canada, but not so much now.
Now, the Carney curse, I posted about this one. It got some heat, and a lot of people agreed with it. But since Carney's taken office, the Blue Jays dropped the World Series to the U.S., the Oilers dropped the Stanley Cup to the U.S., and now two major Canadian sports, women's and men's hockey, to the U.S. Yes, I know rugby. Yes, I know all the other stuff, but I was focused on the U.S. losses. Ever since Canada started booing the U.S. and walking all over the American flag in the change rooms and this anti-U.S. sentiment, we have not been doing well against them. And there's a lot of people in Alberta that was cheering for the U.S. hockey. They're actually cheering against Canada because of the current sentiment that's going around here. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's a sign of the times of what's happening here. You know, talking about someone like, for example, Connor McDavid, who was named the MVP of the men's hockey tournament over in Italy, and deservedly so. He played incredibly well, even in the final. Although he didn't produce points, he was clearly, in my view, you know, apart from the USA goalie Connor Hellebuck, he was the most dynamic player in the game. But, you know, it's difficult for me to separate out Connor McDavid, who was asked before the gold medal game, you know, is this, you know, U.S. versus Canada? He was asked basically a politically charged question, and he sloughed it off, and he said, well, it's just a hockey game. Well, this is the same Connor McDavid when he's got rainbow tape on his stick, and he says, you know, we're the Edmonton Oilers, and we're going to support LGBTQ, and everybody should support LGBTQ. So when it's a political flag that he is willing to bear, and that is the LGBTQ one, he's quite pleased to put it on. But then when he's asked a political question in a game which actually has political consequence because it's a national event, you know, he sloughs it off. You know, I can't circle the square there. Either there's politics in sport, Connor, or there isn't. And you know, you sort of get poop or get off the pot. I would like to see him put all politics away. For me, the ultimate standard for entertainers, and that includes professional athletes, was uttered by Elvis Presley, who in 1972, at the height of the Vietnam War, he was asked by a female reporter what his thoughts were about the Vietnam War, and he said, "Honey, I just as soon keep my political views to myself." Right. And then the follow-up question was, well, do you think that should apply to all entertainers, Elvis? And he said, no. If every entertainer answered those questions that way, I think we'd all be better off. By the way, I'll just tell people, I was recently in Nashville, and I got to see the new Elvis film, the IMAX film, which is basically a montage of some of his live events in the early 1970s. It's just a beautiful and remarkable film, and I saw it in IMAX. It just blew me away. So if you're an Elvis fan, or even if you're not, I recommend people check that out if they can.
I got time for Elvis. Good music.
Yeah. And you're a big fan of Elvis?
Yeah. Again, grew up listening to Elvis. My late uncle, Pat, had a huge vinyl collection, and he had like every Elvis, every Beatles record, all in vinyl. I grew up in two households full of music. So yeah, good stuff.
The Beatles were amazing too. Yeah. They were like four Elvises.
Yeah.
And thank you to Dennis. It was Moguls. That was the skiing with the bumps that I could not remember.
Right. Yes.
Okay. And now let's jump into the meat and potatoes of today.
Right.
Not to move too far away from sports here, but Danielle Smith surprised some people. I was sure it was going to be immigration related. The release, because Rob Anderson, her chief of staff, reposted a chart about how Canada has added 10 million immigrants. And all these other countries combined totaled 10 million. but they have 200 and something million total population, and we only have 40 now. And it was a third of our population growth in that period of time. And he reposted that and said, wait for the announcement from Danielle Smith tomorrow. This is ridiculous, this kind of thing. But I thought it was going to be, they're going to start implementing restrictions to services, Alberta tax paid services to non-citizens, because she's kind of talked about this in the past. With the Alberta ID, having citizenship on it kind of made sense that she would head in that direction. I honestly was floored that she's adding questions to a referendum about this. First, and then we'll get into the individual questions, constitutional and non-constitutional ones. First, what was your response to the fact that she's holding a referendum October 19th, which was around the date we were already looking at for the independence referendum, if it succeeds to get to that point? What were your thoughts, your initial opinion on that?
Well, first of all, I wasn't surprised to learn that Canada is the Olympic gold medalist in mass immigration. I think everybody who lives in this country has figured that out. But I think if Danielle's sport were in the Olympics, I think she would be in the Summer Games. I think she's engaging in mental gymnastics because not so long ago she posted this on her own page. This is April 29th, 2024, folks. She says, last year Alberta's population rose by more than 202,000 people. That's in 1 year. She says, we expect that newcomers will continue flooding into Alberta. It's a tremendous blessing. Okay. So flash forward to just recently now, all of a sudden, immigration is a big problem. And also, Jason, you probably saw this, or many of your viewers and listeners did, not so long ago. She was on our good friend Sean Newman's podcast, and she was talking about one of her key goals was to double Alberta's population during her tenure as our premier. Well, for the first 3 or 4 years of her tenure, Alberta and especially Edmonton and Calgary have been world leaders in immigration. In fact, I saw a list that was published. This is going back to 2023, but the top 10 cities that are taking the most immigrants in Canada and the United States. Of those top 10, the top 7 are Canadian. Calgary was second, and Edmonton was fourth. You don't get to an American city, that would be San Antonio, until 8. And in fact, San Antonio it was taking in only a fourth of the number of people that were going to Calgary, and less than half of the ones that were going to Edmonton. So, we saw this problem 3-4 years ago. What was the premier doing about it? Well, the answer is absolutely nothing. And then more recently, many people saw, in the Western Standard, a story that Alberta's top baby name is now Mohammed, which is a story that we heard about England, and we were shocked by it. But here it is happening right here in Alberta. And I think there's a couple of key things here to consider to explain, why she's doing this. First of all, it's been very clear and obvious from what I just said, and from anybody who's paying attention, that Danielle Smith has until now been pro-immigration. She's also trumpeted multiculturalism. She recently put out a message celebrating Ramadan. Of course, she celebrates all religions, or she tries to do them equally, because she trumpets multiculturalism, which is not actually a Canadian value. Multiculturalism landed here in the 1970s. It's a Justin Trudeau and Marxist value, and of course, it's shared by Mark Carney and the globalists. And I would say that it is an anti-Alberta value, multiculturalism, not multi-ethnic. A multi-ethnic society makes us better. The distinction is that multi-ethnic society blends multiple ethnicities into a coherent identity as a people. And that idea has made places like Canada and the United States great for a long time. Multiculturalism treats all cultures equally, which is a lie. We know it's a lie because most of us know it's wrong for a 60-year-old man to take an 8-year-old girl as his wife, or to celebrate honor killings and the like. All cultures are not created equal. Some things from some cultures are better than others, and of course, Western culture is the one that we want to celebrate here in Alberta. And I think the independence movement is a big part of that. So why is Danielle Smith calling for a referendum right now? Well, this is one that's hard to figure. In fact, I have a hard time figuring out anything about Danielle Smith's tenure as our premier, because there never seems to be sort of a coherent, consistent pattern, a policy page that she follows. And immigration is just one example. There's a contradiction here. So why is she doing this? Well, I think that a big part of it is this government is going to introduce just a terrible budget. It's going to introduce a budget that has a $14 billion deficit, and the people who elected her, including myself, are not going to like this very much. And why is it happening? Well, part of the problem is that the price of oil is down, but a bigger problem is that her government just spends too much. They spend like the Carney Liberals, and they waste money on a lot of the same things that the Carney government does. And a conservative government, really, the sort of touchstones are, reducing the size of the public service. She hasn't done that. You're reducing public spending. She hasn't done that. Getting rid of red tape and regulatory restrictions on business, hasn't really done that either. And so the things that would be needed, and by the way, controlling our population growth would be another conservative thing that she hasn't done. But doing those types of things are what introduces and invites investment to our economy, gets people spending money and feeling good about things, and sort of greases that wheel. That's what conservative governments historically have done, and she hasn't achieved that. So I think this whole immigration gambit, it's a gamble, but it's designed to, I think, sort of draw attention away. It's a bit of a distraction. Look at the kitty, so the people won't notice how bad her budget is going to be. I also think that there's an ulterior motive here in terms of independence, because muddying the waters on the independence question by sort of picking off one of the issues that's subsumed within Alberta independence, I think is a way of kind of weakening the strength here. But here's my biggest problem with her referendum announcement, and I'll leave off with this and then hand it over to you. I question why a government would declare a referendum. This woman has had a majority government essentially since she took office in November of 2022. She has a mandate from the people. She doesn't need to go to the public and have a referendum, which, by the way, is expensive. It's going to cost millions of dollars. She has a mandate. She can legislate. She can pass laws. She can do things, and she should do them. So if she thinks that independence, or I should say immigration, is a problem in Alberta, she has the mandate to legislate in that area. She doesn't need a referendum. Alberta isn't Switzerland yet. We don't have direct democracy. So why not just do it? Why pass the buck onto the taxpayer? That's one problem. Secondly, it annoys me that those of us who support Alberta independence, and people are working very hard to get 1 million signatures on a petition just for the opportunity to have a referendum, and going to court and raising money and taking donations. We have to work for years, and we have been working for years to get a referendum on independence. Danielle Smith just snaps her fingers and, oh yes, there's going to be a referendum in October. That's annoying to me. That is almost an abuse of her political power, because she could have done the same thing on independence and she didn't. And independence in Alberta is a much more pressing and prescient and relevant political issue than immigration is. And so, for those reasons, I don't like this idea that that she's going to snap her fingers and decide willy-nilly that we're going to have a referendum on immigration. When, as I said, I think it's a much more obvious situation that Albertans are interested in. And by the way, we had a referendum back in 2021 on equalization, which was sort of an actual referendum on independence, if you think about it. And Jason Kenney and Danielle Smith have done, at last count, absolutely nothing, honey, about that particular referendum, even though it's been sitting there at 62% for these 5 years.
I agree with you, Leighton.
I don't think Paula's going to push back at all.
Yeah.
I'm going to have some comments for sure. So the Sean Newman podcast, one thing we're forgetting about that comment was it was in response to a question from Sean about how do we get more representation? How do we actually fight the East? How do we actually make things happen? His question was framed in such a way as, what are you going to do to get us at the big table in Ottawa? Her response was double our population. We'll get more MPs that way. And that's kind of where she was going with that. That was in response to underrepresentation from Ottawa for Alberta. One way is to outpace the population of the East, like Ontario and Quebec. And she highlighted immigration as a way to do that. So let's get ourselves to 10 million. We'll have more representation. Nobody liked that answer at that time either. Okay. And this was even before we started to see some of the major problems here in Alberta when it comes to over immigration. Another thing I want to highlight here is she already has her marching orders. So her mandate when she became the leader, it was very clear what the UCP party was asking her for. Then she got elected. Now she has a majority. So she already has a mandate to put Albertans first. In fact, she said, I'm fighting for sovereignty for Alberta within the United Canada, the Sovereignty Act. So she's been provided her mandate, and she keeps falling back on her mandate when the independence question comes up. She's like, my mandate is a sovereign Alberta within United Canada. So she has her mandate, like Alberta first, focus on Alberta first. The What's Next panel was also very clear. The recommendations, a report that came out, these are all marching orders. So when the referendum was announced, I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you looking for yet another reason to be told what your base and people want? How in the world can this be a benefit to her to ask the NDP side of things, hey, do you want us to touch immigration? Because we already know the answer is. So what's the value? This is the part that came out of my head at first. It's like, what's the value of this? You're not going to get more permission out of the NDPers for this. You've already been told by the UCP party and Albertans when it came to your What's Next panel what they want from you. And she only focused on immigration, which was one of the 6 questions. The other ones like the police force, the pension plan, taxation, like taking over taxation. Those are much bigger issues because I think that at least the pension plan one, if she came out and said, okay, I'm doing the referendum on the pension plan because it's kind of split and I'm not sure where people want to go with that one, I would have understood that one. But nothing else and only immigration. So after I did all my math, Leighton, the only thing that I can come up with is she's trying to sway the movable middle away from independence by giving the impression that she can fix everything. As long as you say yes to all of her questions, she'll have the power to go fix everything. And that's just not true. She can already do all the non-constitutional ones yesterday. There's nothing in her way stopping her from doing any of those non-constitutional ones. And then all the constitutional ones, she has zero power, no matter how many Albertans say yes to that. She has zero power to make that happen. In fact, she's making a great argument, and CTV Edmonton kind of put the cat out of the bag by saying, hey, these questions on the constitutional level are next to impossible. You're not going to get them. Correct. Now, this is a good reason for Alberta to be independent, because if you actually want those 4 things, you have to leave Canada to get that as an Albertan. So my assessment at this stage, and I'm still noodling and doing interviews on it, including a request to her to come on to talk about this, is she's trying to sway that movable middle who doesn't want to break up Canada, but sees the benefit for Alberta. But if she can be the one that fixes it, maybe they'll put their vote with her versus independence. And that will shut the door for another 5 years, and she knows it. That's where my mind is around this one. What do you think about that?
I think you're right around the bullseye there, Jason. And it's important to remember, the Conservative Party of Canada recently had their national convention at which they showed support for their current leader at 87% before another one of his MPs crossed the floor and joined the Liberals. But at their convention, their policy statement on immigration looks eerily familiar. It looks rather like what Danielle Smith. Now, I don't want to be called a conspiracy theorist here, but she was at that convention. She was interviewed by CTV at that convention. So I'm guessing that she probably got this idea at this particular time from the CPC, and that she's getting her marching orders from the federal small C conservatives, or a big C conservatives. They're not small C conservatives at all. They're actually progressives. But she said publicly she regards Pierre Poilievre as her boss. She might be wanting to take her boss's job. But one final thought on this immigration. We had, as I said, a very clear referendum result on equalization. And I'm just thinking out loud here, but what if she actually did something about equalization? I realize people will say, well, Leighton, that's constitutional. Alberta has to participate in equalization, but we all know that Quebec doesn't. But what if she actually did what Albertans want her to do about equalization and just suspend it and start collecting all those federal taxes and things like that? Well, guess what? On day one, we would have a lot more money in this province. We'd be able to get ourselves out of debt, and because we would have more money coming into our household, we'd be able to welcome a lot more newcomers. So arguably, the solution to her immigration problem, that is, Alberta can't afford it, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the money, we don't have the services, the solution would be to do what Albertans told her government to do in 2021, and that's to end equalization. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm interested what people think about that.
100%. And one of the first steps is to do the income tax, just like Quebec does. Like, I was trying my best to see the positives of the What's Next panel. Okay, a lot of people are frustrated because Jason Kenney already did one, and you already got the answers, and nothing's changed. But she was doing it. I'm like, okay, well, the positive is she will hear directly from people now, not Jason Kenney, but herself will hear directly from. And I went to the Edmonton one, and it was very clear. Like, every single thing that was brought up was very clear that it's being supported, except the pension plan. That one you could tell because people voted. It's straw poll. About 50% for both sides. So that was a close one. But everything else, including the taxation, was go for it. So I was optimistic that after this, she's going to get us all the same powers that Quebec has. That's very sovereign within the United Canada. Like, if you do push that message, one way to do it is bring us to par when it comes to Quebec. So the pension plan, the taxation, the police, and some immigration, other issues. But she didn't. And then I had her on the show. We went through them and talked about them. And she was like, yeah, we're heading that direction, but no referendum this year. And it caught Paula by surprise. She's like, I thought you were going to do a referendum on a pension plan and not coming this year. They want to study it some more. And then out of the blue, he does this. I think there may be a combination of a few things you mentioned there that may have done it. Just like an airplane crash. There's more than one thing that goes wrong before you have a disaster.
But it's usually pilot error, Jason.
As a pilot, I'll take that comment.
Just saying.
Yeah, especially with the DEI hire and you're in Washington, D.C. But anyways, we'll move on. But I think the convention for the Conservatives for sure. But I also think the lineups in Edmonton and Calgary, I think what they're seeing when it comes to people signing, they probably do some more polls. The numbers are higher within the UCP. And you even have Rob Smith, the president of UCP party, saying he wants to do a poll on whether or not the party should become an independence party. That's how strong within the party that push has become, where the president of the UCP party is now hinting at maybe we should switch our entire mandate as a party to an independence party, which would be a big shift, especially for someone like Danielle Smith, who appears on the surface to be a federalist. So maybe she's trying to combat all of that. And somebody came up with this idea of let's muddy the waters. So now let's go to the Bruce Party response, which was Clarity Act says a single clear question, singular. And if you have a ballot with a bunch of questions, that's going to give the House of Commons, who's 100% against Alberta independence, including Pierre's recent comments that even his members aren't bringing it up. I don't believe that for a second. But the entire House of Commons would be against a successful referendum out of Alberta for independence. So party is saying this gives them an out. This gives them an argument and say that wasn't a clear question. You muddied it. There's so many there that Albertans were confused. What are your thoughts about party's position that this is to cause later down the road a good argument in the House of Commons to ignore the results from Alberta?
Well, as you know, I have a lot of respect for Bruce Party and his thoughts about our Constitution. I think he's one of Canada's leading legal scholars, especially on this topic. However, I don't share his respect for the Clarity Act, and I'll explain why. The Clarity Act, the genesis of it is the 1998 secession reference that went to the Supreme Court. And as you know, Jason, one of the things that I talk and write about a lot on my show is the real danger of judicial activism as a way of usurping and destroying liberal democracy, small L liberal democracy in Canada, parliamentary democracy, if you like. So these judges are making a lot of the laws that we hate, and we can't, if we don't like, for example, Chief Justice Wagner, a decision that he makes about, saying that 1 year minimums for offenders who have the most heinous, disgusting sexual material concerning children. If we don't like a decision like that, we can't vote him out of office. What I question going back to 1998 is, by what authority does the Supreme Court have jurisdiction to decide how and when and under what circumstances a province can leave Canada? That's not in our Constitution. So I question the authority. I think it's a fake, it's a legal fiction that the Supreme Court had the authority to even consider that question, let alone to give instructions to the federal government about how to create a federal statute that would decide and dictate the circumstances under which a province would leave. And that begs another question. Well, can the Supreme Court grant authority to the federal government to decide that question? And then there's the other issue, the Clarity Act, in the end, is just a federal statute. Well, what part of our Constitution says that the provincial government has to do what the federal government says in terms of following one of their laws, enforcing one of their laws? We have a provincial government right now that is actively not enforcing certain federal laws. The UCP government suspended application of the carbon tax. Remember those days when gas was a lot cheaper? And right now they're telling the federal government, well, we're not going to enforce your new, firearms confiscation laws. Well, what if the provincial government says the same thing about the Clarity Act? Yeah, I know what the Clarity Act says, but we're not going to enforce that in Alberta. That's a federal law. So there's a lot of questions here about the Clarity Act. I think the Clarity Act is very ironically named because I don't think that much about it is very clear. It's certainly not clear how you get to independence as a province through the operations of the Clarity Act. What I would like to see, Jason, is have the referendum, but when the referendum gives a positive result, in my prediction, people, you can come back on the show and laugh at me if I'm wrong. My prediction is that the independence referendum is going to look a lot like the equalization one, which was about 62%. I think people are going to vote between 62 and 65% in favor. But when we get that result, the first thing we should do, in my opinion, is declare independence. And on this, I think Bruce and I agree. We should declare independence. I don't think going down the road of negotiation with the Carney government is the road to independence. I think if we declare independence and we have some other nations internationally that recognize our right to self-determination, which, by the way, is part of the UN Charter, then I think we're home free. And I know that there's this big, broad-shouldered nation to the south that would probably recognize Alberta independence immediately. But it's interesting to recall also that when Kosovo declared independence many years ago, Canada was the first international nation to recognize them as a self-determined nation. Now, Kosovo has never become fully independent, unfortunately. That they're still working on that. But I'm not convinced that this whole Clarity Act thing is the road to go down. My opinion on that differs from some of the people who are at the leadership of the Alberta Prosperity Project.
Could we not do both, like declare the independence and recognize, okay, there's paperwork we have to kind of file with being the Clarity Act, but still stand firm and saying we are declaring our independence?
I think that the Clarity Act is a trap for the unwary. When you follow and recognize the Clarity Act as proper law, and I'm not convinced that it is for the reasons I've said. I don't think the Supreme Court had any jurisdiction to decide the question. And I don't think the federal government has any jurisdiction to decide when and if a province leaves Canada. But if you treat the Clarity Act as proper law, I think it's a prelude to a kiss. And that is that the federal government is never going to permit a province to peacefully leave Canada. I think the Clarity Act was written and is designed to prevent Quebec from ever leaving Canada. And my concern is that it will operate in that way to prevent Alberta from becoming independent. And if you follow that road down to the end, what are you left with then?
Well, here's a major problem with what you're laying out here. The way I see it is the Clarity Act is with consent, Declaration of Independence without consent of Canada. Okay? You don't need the consent of Canada to do it. That's why the Declaration of Independence exists. And like you said, I don't like to use the word international law because not really law, but international norms, I guess. Once you can afford to, once your people agree it, and then once you're recognized, then you're a state. Those are really the three tests to becoming a state.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenge that I have with this is Bathsheba Vandenberg, she says the exact same thing that you say. Just don't even bother with the Clarity Act. Just declare it. And what I'm trying to get my head around is if we were to do the Clarity Act and be successful, well, then we'll have a positive partner as a neighbor. But if we don't, then we may have a hostile partner as a neighbor. And that may give a different situation. Like Kosovo is still fighting for it. So the way I see it is it's with consent or without consent. Now, I'm all for getting to the end goal, however we need to get there. The U.S. has already said they would do it. I think Israel also said yes, because Canada recognizes Palestine. Israel is going to recognize Alberta, and I'm sure others will come on board with that one. But when it comes to the conversation, Arnie won't do it. And I also think the biggest problem here is, frankly, Danielle Smith, because she is not the leader that's going to take the Declaration of Independence route, no matter what that number is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually, Jason, I was at an APP event in Two Hills about a week and a half ago, and I listened to Mitch Sylvester give a really persuasive presentation, as he usually does. But at the end of it, he was asked, well, okay, so what happens after we get the referendum? His picture is that after the referendum result happens, Danielle Smith would effectively become the leader of a new independent Alberta, and then she would be the one to sort of take us through these negotiations as the leader of an independent Alberta. Well, based on what she's saying publicly, it's pretty clear she's not prepared to wear that coat of many colors on behalf of Alberta, and that she would probably reject it. So that's a really big problem. I think your vision of what things are going to be like between Alberta and Canada is one that many Albertans would like to have in an ideal world. But I think the reality is, and I think you know this, Jason, in fact, I'm sure that you do, what Albertans are dealing with here is an acrimonious divorce. This is not going to be, if it were not going to be so, then we would be in negotiations. We would be in negotiations right now with Canada about leaving. They're not going to. We're not going to go gently off into the future. They're not going to permit that. In fact, all indications are that this government is now having preferential immigration for foreign soldiers. They're talking about creating a new bureaucracy for their own private police force. Anybody who knows the history of Nazi Germany knows where that's going to lead. So this is not going to be a peaceful parting. But here's the other thing that people that don't seem to realize or seem to forget. Back in 1949, the United States was courting Newfoundland, and because Newfoundland was actually a very important, vital place for the Americans, for the Allies during World War II, because it was the furthest or the most eastern, launch point for not only ships but airplanes to Europe during the war. And it was very close. Newfoundland was very close to joining the United States. But in 1949, through a very close vote, in fact, Brian Peckford will tell you this story because I think he was actually old enough to remember it. Newfoundland joined or voted to join Canada, and that was it. They voted to join. The federal government accepted them. So if that is the convention, if that's the history of the way provinces join Canada, why isn't that the convention for the way that provinces leave Canada? Why all of a sudden do we have this thing called the Clarity Act? Why all of a sudden does the Supreme Court of Canada has supreme authority to decide the when and the if and the how that a province will leave Canada? Again, I have a hard time sort of, squaring the circle here. And I think many people do. And this is why I say I like, unlike many, most other commentators, at least legal ones on this issue, I don't have a lot of faith in this Clarity Act. I think it's a trap for the unwary, but I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think that the Clarity Act is the pathway for Alberta to achieve independence. I think it's a different road.
Well, you have at least one former politician that agrees with you, Stéphane Dion. He says it's only for Quebec. So,
Yeah.
okay, maybe it's only for Quebec then.
Yeah.
And then we just
That could be the slogan for everything about Quebec, right?
No
only for
kidding.
Quebec. Now, back to the Danielle Smith issue, though.
Yeah.
She could have announced her referendum after the numbers came out so that we knew that there was going to be a referendum being planned. There was no rush on this. The timing is very odd, unless you're trying to interfere or muddy the conversation at this stage. But back to, he will not do a declaration of independence. I guarantee you that. That's my total gut on this one. So does she have to be replaced? Are we going to wait till after the referendum and see what she tries to do? Do we have to wait till October 2027 to get another election? Like, we can't hand this over to the NDP because everything falls apart between those two periods of time. And you can take a look at the UCP party right now. They're already teetering on whether or not she's going to be the one that continues. And I think you were in Edmonton, and she misread that room about the MOU.
Oh, yeah.
She's misreading the room now again about this referendum. Like, the room being the UCP party. So is Jeff Rath going to get his way? Because now a lot of people are saying, Jeff, you were right about her all along. Like, there's a lot of people jumping on his bandwagon that Danielle's not the right leader for this. So is he going to get his way, and maybe the CAs get together, force a review, and Kenny her before the referendum, and certainly just after the referendum if she's not moving fast enough?
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, Kenny's a verb.
Yeah.
Kenny.
Yeah, and by the way, he's out in the public eye right now, and people might remember he was our former immigration minister, and it pains me to say this, but he was a pretty good immigration minister, a lot better immigration minister than he was a premier. And he's saying a lot of the same things that Danielle is now about immigration. My opinion of Danielle is that she is a politician. She's not an ideologue. I've been in private, in small settings with her, with people, and people who have experienced that know that she's very different in those settings than her public face. And I don't want to say that she's a complete chameleon, but she is a populist. Danielle's main goal is to stay in office. She likes being the premier of Canada, of Alberta. Pardon the
Freudian there.
Since premier and prime minister are basically synonyms, but I think that she is going to adapt. She's a very clever lady. She's very interested in being the leader of Alberta, and she's not an ideologue. She doesn't feel strongly enough about the Canadian Federation, for example, and Canadian federalism to let that to die on that hill. I think that she's clever enough and she's wise enough that she's probably got multiple sort of options that she's entertaining for her career, and she's gonna pick the one that is most advantageous to her. And why wouldn't she? I mean, this is how someone becomes the premier of a province of 5 million people. This is not an accident. She's a very astute politician, and I would not underestimate her ability to think on her feet and to adjust. In fact, we've seen her do this. Jason, unfortunately, we saw her in the beginning when she became the leader. She was trumpeting, is essentially the whole COVID cause, which she's largely abandoned during the course of her. She's put that on the back burner. I mean, really, we haven't had much justice for people who were hurt during the COVID-19 pandemic. It would be nice if we had a referendum, for example, on a question of whether or not there should be arrests and justice for people who were involved in the COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, that would involve mostly people who are still in her government. but I wouldn't underestimate Danielle. I could see a world in which she becomes the leader of a new and independent Alberta, if that best serves her own interests, and if she thinks that is best for Alberta. I do think she cares about Alberta. I don't think she's a total political pragmatist, but I think she's someone who is able to think on her feet and adapt to changing conditions. So if she sees the prevailing conditions for her own career and the future of Alberta aligning in a way that she becomes the leader of an independent Alberta, I think I would not be at all surprised to see her be able to sort of turn that into the path that she's going to follow for her own political gain.
There's a comment here from our locals chat. The most important part of this whole quest is to make sure that the right people end up in charge. We must have a leader that is in line with the principles of our movement.
That's a wise person there. Yeah, I agree totally.
A lot of comments within the chat is that there is, and not only today, but previously, there is a lot of mistrust with Danielle with regards to her history of crossing the floor. And like you said, she's a chameleon. She reads the room. Which way should she be adapting? And I have no doubt there are the plan A, there's a plan B, there's a plan C, all the way down to find out what are the options available to her to best suit and ensure that she stays in a seat of power.
Now, speaking of the seat of power, though, if you go back to her university days and you speak to the people that grew up with her going through university, her ambitions have always been the Prime Minister of Canada. Right. And she's on the path as long as Alberta stays in under her role. Alberta stays in, she could be looked at as the savior of Canada. You kept it together. Alberta left, Saskatchewan, BC, Quebec may have left as well. You kept Canada together. Pierre has flopped. She might be trying to live out her long-term goal, her dreams of actually running Canada. Now, if she was to, I think she would be a Harper where, left from the west, went to the east, and then focused on the east, or would actually help Alberta open up the pipelines and do all this kind of stuff. Like, what do you think her long-term goal is if she becomes PM? Because this is from people that grew up with her and are very close to her still today, still saying that is still one of her biggest ambitions.
Well, I think that this is true, and who could blame her? Although you'd have to be part crazy to want to be the Prime Minister of Canada right now, I think. But I think there are still people around who still believe that if we change the government in Ottawa, that could change everything. I don't believe that. In fact, I don't see much difference. If you look at the policy of the Conservative Party of Canada, they're really a progressive party. And I think this was evidenced at their most recent convention when they refused to adopt a policy of being against DEI and against mutilation of children on the basis of transgender ideology. And you just have to look at who's there. You can see one of his deputies right now is under scrutiny right now because he's over in India, meeting with certain people of criminal backgrounds. And then, our deputy prime minister under CPC government right now would be Melissa Lantsman, who's an LGBT activist. So, I mean, really, this is totally inconsistent with conservative governance. But I think only Pierre Poilievre, it seems, does not realize that he's finished as the leader of that party. When Mark Carney is able to get enough people over to the Liberals to declare a majority, obviously Poilievre at that point will have to resign. But he's the only one who doesn't see it. All of us see it, that somebody else has to come along. He simply failed to do what he said he was going to do when he became leader. And Danielle would be the logical choice. And if she were the one who, kept Alberta within federalism and sort of put out that fire, that would be her claim to fame. There are already many people who are trumpeting her, as the next leader of the CPC. And I would not be at all surprised if that's her goal. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if she didn't even run for re-election in Alberta. That's conceivable, because if Pierre did resign, I think Danielle would throw her hat in that ring. And there are other people who are waiting to take her place as leader of the UPC. So I think you're right on a lot of counts there, Jason, in terms of not only her aspirations, but how these things are going to unfold in the in the coming weeks and months.
I
Yeah.
agree.
And if the CPC convention was open to all CPC members and not just the delegates that could pay $1,000 to vote, or 2,000 in some cases,
Yeah.
then we may have seen a different result there. And if that result was very different, you may have seen Danielle step up then at that point.
Yeah.
So maybe the CPC results, she was waiting on some of those to see where that goes. She was always publicly supporting him, but behind the scenes hoping he trips and falls. And then, you only have the rich, the delegates that can show up and they vote. And then there you go. You get the 80% plus support from your party. What we do now is I want to jump to our supporter section and get to some of that with you. If I can steal some more time while you're on vacation down in the US. Because there's some more things I want to bounce off you as well. So just hang on. You're going to see our exit, but we're not exiting you. We're going to go to our supporter section in a moment. Okay.
Sure.
Leighton, it's been an absolute pleasure. And
thank you.
I think you're going to be on again shortly because this conversation is going to continue as it starts to unfold, especially after the numbers start to come in May. But we'll see where we're at. All right.
Sounds great.
Be right with you. Be right with you. Okay. Well, I'm really glad that we got to have him back on. He aligns a lot with you. Okay. And I'm not saying I don't align as well. I think you and I represent the UCP party right now. There's a group, which makes it about half, that's really fed up and done. And then there's a group that's trying to see what we can do. Make limeade out of limes. As you guys put it last week.
Because we don't have lemons, we have limes.
Because this is where we're at right now with our current leader. It's not like we can just demand.
Yeah, no, I agree. But there's something I want to add. It's not just a case of fed up. There's mistrust. I don't trust it. Yeah, there's mistrust. But anyway, we will continue this conversation over on the supporter side. If you want to go ahead and like, subscribe, share out, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much who's been joining the group over the last few months. And yes, you can go ahead and become a member or a supporter. And we love to see you there to have the extended conversation.
Thank you all very much for joining us today. It's a lot of fun. The whole week's going to be like this. Remember, we may not be here tomorrow, or we may. We'll see. But we're planning not to do a show tomorrow. So see you back on Wednesday. Yeah. Where we have Mitch Sylvester and Rachel Parker joining us. Yeah. So everybody have yourself a wonderful day. Take care of each other. Love you all very much. God bless.